Alright, so after that high praise of the last book in the last video, One Day at Horrorland, we move on to a double whammy of mediocrity overall here. So, and that seems to happen, I think. So far I've been seeing a pattern where a lot of the kind of middle of the road or okay or not so great ones are like clustered together, and then there's like a really great one, and then there's a couple like and there's a really great one. It's just kind of like an up and down. I haven't seen, even looking at my reviews so far, there aren't that many where it's like a really good one right in a row, like a couple of them. They're like spread out. But first we have number 17, Why I'm Afraid of Bees. Right brain, wrong body. Gary Lutz needs a vacation from himself. Bullies are constantly beating him up. That's a very common thread in Goosebumps, dealing with bullies. His only friend is his computer. I understand that. Even his little sister doesn't like him. But now Gary's dream is about to come true. He's going to exchange bodies with another kid for a whole week.
What could possibly go wrong?
Oh yeah, that would have been more interesting if it was a girl he's swim with. But Gary can't wait to get a new body for a whole week until something horrible happens, and Gary finds out his new body isn't exactly human.
They're like 12. That could be horribly disastrous, depending on the week.
And depending on the kid, depending on how far into puberty they are. If they had switched with But no, they switched with a B. And I don't know, to me...
So weird.
It just didn't come across that great. I didn't like him either. Like, he to me came off as... Because a lot of times
he wasn't as developed as
he comes across as the antisocial, bullied nerd, but not in a way that you like. I didn't really truly feel for him. You don't empathize, in any way. Like, and a lot of times you can. I think R.L. Stine has done that very well in some of these other ones. Like they're like very different. Sometimes, sometimes you have that kid who is very outgoing and independent, and other times you have that bullied, like semi-depressed like kid that you really feel for. But I didn't feel for him in this book at all, and it just seemed like a really weird kid's version of The Fly. It didn't come across that well. Like I don't know. I didn't. If you don't feel, and even in the context of trying to think of myself as like a second grader reading these, I think even then I wouldn't really feel for this character and his plight in any way. He's kind of annoying and and I don't know, it just didn't come across as like me. I didn't care.
I had more of a problem with Miss Carmenis, I think that was her name, the lady with the machine.
Yeah.
Like, oh, well, the kid that changed bodies with you just decided he doesn't want to change back, so,
Yeah, no, overall, it felt fairly weak, both in terms of plot and characters, and, like, it sometimes is one or the other in some cases, where it's like, alright, the monster element is cool enough that it makes it work, or you really like the kid, like, what's her name, Andy, and, like, the Monster Blood things, like, a lot, for the first one. But overall, like, there's sometimes, or, like, what was her name in the girl who cried monster, like with the you get that character, but here I think it was weak in both parts. I give it a 5 out of 10, very middle of the road. Like it was just kind of like it's on the lower end. It's one of the lowest rated ones I've had.
I gave it a 6.
Yeah,
I mean there were some decent elements. I thought the bees were cool. I thought it was unique in that way.
Yeah,
but I had a really big problem with the female scientist. She just seemed to and like I'm not interested in the fact that you turned into a bee, that I did this to you. Like, just even as a child, I feel like I would have thought, something could go wrong.
Yeah.
Maybe there should be some rules or something.
And in the same context, I was just looking here, the first Monster Blood, I gave an 8 out of 10. And I think you gave it at least an 8 out of 10.
I think I gave it an 8
And
out of 10
then this is now 2 5s in a row for me, because next up, Monster Blood 2 kind of fell flat.
I was really excited to reread this one, because I didn't really remember this at all, did you?
No,
I didn't remember this
I remember
at all.
the first one very well, and I think I remember I think it's like the last one where the Monster Blood's blue or whatever. Like towards the end, I remember that one.
It does change.
I didn't really remember this one very much as a kid.
It's back. Evan Ross can't stop thinking about Monster Blood and what happened last summer. It was so horrible, so terrifying. Too bad Evan's science teacher doesn't believe him. That's a shocker. Now he's stuck cleaning out the hamster's cage as punishment for making up stories.
Yeah.
Oh. Then Evan's friend Andy comes to town, and things go from bad to worse, because Andy's got a present for Evan. It's green and slimy, and it's starting to grow.
Diseased penis. No. Yeah. But overall, I think, speaking of Andy, Andy went through a change here where her personality was still enjoyable, but she seemed to lose all sense of like logic and self-preservation in this one compared to the first one. Like I feel like there were
it was very
some events
weird.
were forced through Andy's character that I don't think Andy's character would have necessarily done.
No.
And it ends up with a terrible conclusion with the expiration date on the monster blood. Like I thought it was such a kind of a dumb cop out. And I think too, one thing that works really well in terms of being like short chapters for kids and the way they always end on, say, a frightening element, and then the first sentence of the next one is like, oh, but it was actually his friend, like pulling out, grabbing his arm from the dark. And there's a lot of that which works really well. But in here, it was too much of like waking up from a daydream. It was like 2 in a row. And you got a couple of them, like, weird. Even as a kid, I feel like I would think that's a little cheap compared to like, a monster is coming up from the deep and like, oh, it's just seaweed. Like it's like, oh, like that it makes more sense, and it's a great chapter break for a kid to get the kid excited and go to the next chapter and like
that adrenaline rush.
But here it was just like, I feel like after a while just be like, everything's just like a stupid dream, and then it's it just like, to me it wasn't structured well. It had all the elements of a good Goosebumps book, but they weren't done well in this one.
I was really disappointed. We don't hear about Sarah Beth at all. We don't hear about Catherine at all.
It feels very disconnected.
Catherine, like at the very end, part of her problem was resolved, and you would think that the mother and father would talk about this, or like this would be a bigger deal. Never mentioned it at all, and that's really weird. And I hate the hamster. I hate the hamster.
Kind of stupid,
Trigger was back, the beautiful Cocker Spaniel, but who names a hamster Cuddles?
I think this would have worked so much better if it had been 2 totally different kids who also found a can of monster blood. And
I think that would have been much better, much more believable. Because Evan he wasn't the same character. Andy wasn't the same character. You know who I did like? The kid that's name is Conan.
Oh, yeah.
Conan
the bully?
Barber.
The bully,
Conan Barber. The blonde hair, blue-eyed bully. Yes.
But,
He was cute. But, the resolution was stupid. And Cuddles. Who named a hamster Cuddles?
But overall, those 2 in a row were just kind of like... but this one I think was more disappointing to me. Why I'm Afraid of Bees, this was one of those that I kind of forgot about. When, I was like...
it's not very memorable.
I think I read this 25 years ago, but I don't really remember what happened.
25 years!
Yeah. But the Monster Blood 2, I think, was more annoying just because the first one really actually lived up to my memories of it. Because there are a lot of them where it's like, I remember loving this as a kid, and some of them it's like, oh, why did I love this as a kid? But other ones it's like, oh, I see why my childhood self loved this. Like, it's a great kid's book, and like this didn't live up to the first one.
Can I tell you a horrible story?
What horrible story?
Can I tell you a horrible story, Internet?
No, what?
Okay, so my first job was at a pet store, and I thought this was going to be like the best thing ever, because there are cute little animals. I love animals. Did you know that about me? I love animals. But one day we were going in, and I worked up front at the register, and I was helping back in the where all the animals were, and I was so excited because I was going to feed the animals. They're so cute, I could pet them. Oh my gosh! And we went, and they turned on the fixtures, and all the hamsters were sitting in a circle, a perfect circle, and they're sitting on their butts, and it was so cute. And I was like, oh my gosh, they're so cute. And the girl that was working back there, all of a sudden she screams at them, "You little bastards!" And she hits the cage. And in the middle of the hamster circle, there was a dying hamster that they were eating. They were eating it.
Yeah, they're horrible little creatures.
Oh my god!
I would never
have
a hamster.
They're horrible cannibals. Yeah. And I've never been able to get over hamsters since then.
That's terrifying. That's more terrifying than this.
That was a terrifying thing. But, so, I wasn't a fan.
Yeah.
It was traumatizing.
Yeah.
But do you have any hamster stories?
Any horrible hamster stories?
Horrible hamster stories? Did you like this book? Do you remember this book?
I have a horrible hamster story of my friend Matt's brother leaving their hamster outside in like the winter.
In the winter?
Yeah, and
what happened?
Dead popsicle. Yeah, but
I feel like everybody had hamsters.
That was just thankfully I didn't have a hamster. But but thankfully tomorrow we're coming back with another classic that is far better than I remember. To be honest, this is one that I didn't remember, but I'm like, wow, this is one of the best ones. Yeah. So next episode we're getting back to some really good Goosebumps.
Stay tuned.